Good evening and welcome to the Clayton City Council meeting for Tuesday, April 16th. And I'm going to call to order this meeting and ask the city clerk to please take the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Cloven.
I'm here.
Tillman. Here. Juan.
Here.
Vice Mayor Tripiano.
I'm here.
Mayor Diaz.
Yes, here.
Thank you. Have a quorum.
All right, now item 2, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all please join me at that. Ready. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 3 on the agenda is public comment for non-agenda items. And do we have any cards? See if we do. I'll let the city clerk bring that up. If there is, we'll move on that.
Sorry.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, number 1, Keith Hayden, please come forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Microphone.
Turn that on now. Thank you,
There you go.
Mayor and Council. I'm going to be repeating a request I've made in the past, and it's based on the continued exodus of senior staff managers at the city staff level. And I wanted to remind the mayor and council of your commitment to running a transparent administration once you became mayor. And it sounded great. We all liked hearing that. And I just want to challenge you now then to really put that into play and to look at what is going on with that exodus. And one thing you might want to take a look at is the exit letters that have been written, particularly by the city manager and the executive assistant to the city manager. They point out their claims of inappropriate interaction between the council and the city staff, which I think does require investigation. If that was so serious that it prompted them resigning from their positions that they had not held for very long. So to take such drastic action, I think requires the city council to look into that and to report back to the community the results of their investigation and what is going to be done, if anything, to try to stop that continued revolving door and get qualified candidates in here to staff the positions that are currently just interim or just recently been put out there for applicants so that we can get some consistency on our staff level positions. That's critical, particularly for a small staff like Clayton has and that the residents depend on to meet the needs of our community. So I just ask that you once again try to run that transparency commitment and put that into practice and really look at what's causing this and try to stem the tide. So I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Although there's no number on this one, H. Ray Assemi. You're speaking at non-agenda item. I didn't see a number on here.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
This is my first time. So.
All right.
And microphone? Yeah, just want to put the microphone.
Oh, you have to turn it on first.
Sorry.
And if you have materials, the city clerk will take it.
Yes. Good evening, members
Good evening.
of council members. Tonight we are here on behalf of neighbors who were affected by the solar panels that were installed in Oakhurst Golf Course, which is adjacent to our properties. There's about 20 homes in 2 associations that have been impacted by the decision that the city has made along with the golf course, without consulting with any of the members, without consulting with any of the neighbors and homeowners that are adjacent to the golf course. So this project has been going on since 2019, but city of Clayton and its managers, nobody has contacted us. And they went ahead and erected the solar panels. It's like a solar panel farm right behind these buildings. They installed they're in the process of installing the solar panels in the 18th hole course. And we believe that this has destroyed the view that we used to have, and it's no longer there, and it has devalued our properties. And and my main concern is the fact that why the city or the planning department never consulted with us, and just it was a one-way decision-making with the golf course owners. We like solar panels. In fact, I have solar panels myself. I know it's a state rule that cities should have solar panels, should install solar panels, but there were 101 other locations that they could have put these solar panels, but they put it right next to our homes. Please take a look at those photos, and you'll see what I'm talking about. We know we can't change the situation, but we are asking and begging the city to put some kind of a camouflage or talk to the owners of the Oakhurst to do this for us. And we really need your help on this case. And we understand this is private property, and the city is also forced to do this. However, we need this area to be maintained, and if they can put shrubs or some camouflage so we don't see this eyesore. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ed Hartley is up next.
Good evening. I am here to address a posting that it's making its way on social media, and I think may have also been submitted as public comment from a Mr. Waterhouse in Upper Easley Estates. Well, first of all, I'm a member of the CBCA, but I am not here in any official capacity. This post is fairly clear in the author's viewpoint that the CBCA for years has been controlling and influencing both this council and the Planning Commission. And besides being seriously misinformed, it is wrong. I would also note that 4 of the 5 members of the council, with the exception of Mr. Wan, are CBCA members. And Mr. Mayor, your tenure as a CBCA member is more than double the length of time of the other 3 combined. I would request that when it comes time in the agenda for council members to give their comments, that I would like you to address this post and whether you agree that the CBCA has been exercising undue influence and control over the Planning Commission and the City Council in this town for years. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura Kindorf is up.
Good evening, everyone. I would just here tonight to more or less second and support what Mr. Hayden has to say about our revolving door with senior staff. The city deserves to have some answers and some understanding about what has been going on, and some investigating needs to be done, and you know, third party people leave jobs, they say things to just quietly make an exit, but I think we've all known people, or possibly ourselves, who have, you know, you don't, it's just, yeah, you don't want to ruin something that has been good, that has turned bad for you, and you don't want to, yeah, you just don't want to impact everybody who's left behind. So you say things and you make the excuse, oh, I need to take care of this, or I'm moving a little farther away, whatever the thing is. So, but let's look at this and be responsible about it. We can't have this revolving door and not getting things done and having a distrust and a bad feeling about what's happening in our city. So please respect the citizens of Clayton, look into this formally, and let's stop the cycle that is so negative. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no more cards. City Clerk, is there anybody online that wishes to address as a non-agenda items?
There are currently no speakers with
You
their
have
hands
nobody
raised.
there.
There are members of the public
Okay.
online, but no speakers.
Bring them on up.
Oh, we just got a
Nope,
new raised hand.
There's nobody there.
Someone just raised their hand. If you
Okay.
intend to speak to this item, please go ahead and use the raise hand feature now, and we'll just go down the queue. This will help expedite the process. Rebecca Nolan, your microphone is unmuted. Rebecca Nolan. There you
Oh,
go.
now you can hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay, sorry about that. Good evening, Mayor and council members. In the last 2 weeks, our city offices have had 4 employees resign. I wish this was an anomaly. 4 city managers in 5 years. Over the last 5 years, it has been close to 20, if not more, for the total number of employee turnovers. The interim positions are debatable if they should be counted on or not. I say yes, they should be, because they wouldn't be needed if people weren't dropping like flies. Either way, that number is catastrophic to keeping a city running smoothly. Some on social media would like us to think that this started with our most recent city manager and would like to blame him for creating a hostile work environment. Again, he was only here 8 months, and this has been going on for 5 years. One past employee called to complain. However, several current employees, at least current at the time that they spoke up here in person in favor of him. He also had a few followed him from his previous jobs. If someone is creating a hostile work environment, then when that person leaves, the other employees do not resign as well. They are relieved that person is gone and continue to do their jobs. And they definitely do not follow a person to their next job. Why would Brett Prebula have so many people speak so highly of him if he was so difficult to work with? I've worked for a small company for 18 years. Not one person has ever left because they were disgruntled. It can be done. You can have a positive work environment. What is happening at City Hall is disheartening and detrimental to our beautiful town. I want to know who and or what is driving people away. Something is going horribly wrong in City Hall, and I'm requesting that you follow through with Councilmember Tillman's request to have an investigation or audit as to what the ongoing problem seems to be. She has been asking since October, and it has fallen on deaf ears. I, as a concerned citizen, I'm now asking of you as well. What are you afraid of? If nothing, then please have an outside impartial investigation into the unusually high staff turnover at City Hall. If you are afraid that it will reflect poorly on you, on some of you, then I don't expect any action from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
There are no other speakers.
Yeah, thank you. Well, at this point, since we have nobody else online and there are no more cards and no one has offered to come up. Oh, wait a minute. We have a speaker. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you haven't fixed this thing yet either. It shouldn't be sticking up like this. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, first I'd like to welcome our interim city manager. Welcome to this lovely little city. Regardless of what you hear about all the turmoil going on, it's still a great little town. And the second thing is, I sent an email to both Councilmember Tillman and Councilmember Juan about moving this up on their agenda for the parking permit study. I know you guys are busy and haven't answered my email. I'm just reminding you, we'd like to move that forward because, as you know, he has, Jordan has the Olivia project is under contract, which means that at some point he's going to have to disclose this. He should do it right now, that there's going to be this parking permit program in the works. And it's difficult to disclose it if you're not doing your clock. It's difficult to disclose it if you don't know the details of the program. You didn't set the clock?
It is on. It's 2 minutes and 10 seconds. I'm texting my
How much time do I have?
You have 2 minutes and 5 seconds now.
Left?
Left.
Oh, okay. The other thing I'd like to say is, regardless of staff turnover, I know there's been a lot of staff turnover, but I can tell you that when we met with Brett a year ago, he said that he had an agenda that he wanted to push through the city, and he wanted to stay here 3 to 5 years. And if he couldn't push through his agenda, then he would leave and take his staff with him. And if he could do this in 3 to 5 years, he'd take his staff and he'd move on to the next city. But part of that agenda was a 1% sales tax increase. Sounds familiar? He wanted to increase the landscape maintenance tax $140 to $150. And he also wanted to increase the real estate transfer tax. None of that came forward. We know there was animosity between him and the council, a lot of council members, and I'm not sure that the animosity was from the council micromanaging his job. What they were doing, and I sat up there for a number of years, we elect you folks to represent us, and not staff is unelected. So if staff comes up with something that you don't like, you have every right to challenge them and not agree with them. It takes 3 votes, as you know, to override what the staff wants. And my years on the city council, I never agreed with everything that the city manager wanted to do. I agreed with a lot of it. And if you're a good city manager, and this one here I assume is, that you know how to work politics. You don't come and blindside the city council with your agenda items or things you want to push. You need to get council members ahead of time, at least one on each side, to get support. And then when it comes to the council, there's a better chance of it passing. So to me, it's just as inexperience. And I know that when we select the next city manager, I got 13 seconds left, that I'd hope, and I mentioned this before, that you have another layer of eyes on this, that you have a citizen review panel, maybe 4 or 5 members from the community, to review the applications and then make a recommendation to the city council. That's all I got. My time's up, and I wish you'd move that clock back down here and fix this microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Walcott. Anyone else in the audience that hasn't submitted a card, please do so. You're up to bat. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll be quick. So, Bill said something that I agree with, which is you guys represent the public. You've had an overwhelming number of folks come to these meetings and on Zoom and asked for you to consider Councilmember Tillman's request for an independent investigation. If you really want to do something to break the divide in the city, why not follow through on this? We've had statements now from on both sides both sides from former staff. If there's nothing to hide, why won't you agendize this? For those that are just new to these meetings and don't understand that the council members request future agenda items, but it's the mayor's prerogative to determine whether they actually come forward to the council. It was requested several times over when Jeff Wan was the mayor and continued to not agendaize it. It's been requested several times over when Mayor Diaz has been the mayor and he continues to not agendaize it. If you really care about the voice of the community and there is nothing to hide, why not, for the sake of transparency and to help bridge the divide, follow through on Councilmember Tillman's request? Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have another gentleman that wishes to speak. Your iPad.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'll keep it brief. I've been following the social media also. I've written a couple statements on the social media about the management style that we've had at Clayton here. I have to say that I think several of you have it wrong, especially you, Holly. If you've taken any business courses, you'd understand there's a thing called chain of command. And it's not the council's job to go ahead and investigate the council. If the city manager has a problem where he thinks one of you are overstepping your bounds, if the city manager was strong and capable and had the skill set, he would call that council member into his office and have a discussion. It's not the council's job to do his job. I think Brett was weak. Brett could have nipped that problem in the butt in a second had he had those skills. You have it backwards, and I think you're bringing the community into that. I don't appreciate it. I think whoever the next city manager is, and I've said this before, I sent you guys all a nice little email with a study, the gentleman that was doing his doctorate. I hope you read it, because it's an ongoing problem when these people come into town, and I mean city managers. They need to understand the culture of the community. And my last statement in that, and I'll repeat it again, nobody's perfect except for on the resume. So please do your job this next go-around. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hood. Anyone else before we close public comment on non-agenda items? No one? All right, I'm going to close the public comment portion, and we'll continue on with the agenda. And now we move to the consent calendar. First off, anyone on the council wishes to address or pull one of these items? Nobody? Okay, good. Now, any public comment on the consent calendar? And I see no hands. I have no card. Anybody online?
For those that are joining us online, please dial *6 if you would like to speak to this item. No members of the public have raised their hand.
No, okay. So, closing public comment on this item.
Move approval.
Moved by...
I'll second.
Okay. Moved by Councilmember Juan, seconded by Vice Mayor Trupiano. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Cloven.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Juan.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Trupiano.
Aye.
Mayor Diaz.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. You have 5
Okay.
ayes.
There are no recognitions or presentations, item number 5. So we'll move to reports, and the first one will be our new interim city manager, Adam Polzinger. Thank you very much for joining us. And by the way, if nobody has seen his resume, he has a very extensive background in city administration. And I think it's probably somewhere between 15 and 20 years as a city manager. And correct me if I'm wrong, the most recent city that you were working with was Sausalito, if I'm not mistaken. But we want to welcome you, and we have great expectations. And I want to say one thing, he is already working on filling some of the vacancies that we have at City Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, council members. And thanks to the community of Clayton. I'm very pleased to be here and joining you and joining the team. I've been here now, this is my second day. First day, the email had a little bit of snafu. So if you emailed me yesterday, I was catching up to them today. But I do believe that you have a really good team here. And I think there is a lot of opportunity to all come together and focus on the priorities of the city. The City Council has laid out their goals and objectives for this coming budget season. And my job is to help move that agenda forward. Also really important for all of us is to attract a really great and talented city manager that can lead this team in the near future, and I can go back being retired and enjoying my garden. As the mayor shared, I was the city manager for the city of Sausalito for 13 years. Since then, I retired back in 2020. I have been the interim city manager for the town of Fairfax, the city of Emeryville, and I was advisor to the city manager, working as the assistant to the city manager in an advisory role for the city of East Palo Alto, who had hired a brand-new first-time city manager and benefited from having someone there to help and coach over that first 6 months. City manager is a very difficult job. It's a job that our role is support the council and support the team. The best city managers are the ones that you don't actually know their name. They are working to support the team. And that's what I hope to do in my short time here, is support the good folks that work for you all and work for the community, work and support the community's interests and needs, and support the council in getting their priorities and objectives accomplished. So I'm pleased to be here, and thank you for the introduction and welcome.
Thank you, Adam. And I will, yeah, all you want. Okay, I'm done with my opening comment. Anybody wish on the city council to make any comments?
Well, I just have one comment. Thank you, Adam, for that, and I welcome you. And I guess I'm just entreating the rest of my council members and the community to give this man a chance and give this staff a chance to rebuild our staffing, hire the people that we need. Peter and I are actively on the ad hoc committee to hire a permanent city manager, and we will be doing our due diligence, but I know there's a lot of noise on social media, and I just would hope that we'd quiet things down and give these folks a chance to succeed. That's it. Welcome.
Nice. And I echo that as well. Okay, anything else regarding the city report? And there is a hand raised, and I'll open it up to see what that individual would like to comment on.
No.
Nope.
Hand down.
Nothing
They
further?
lowered the hand.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, public hearings, we have none. Now we'll move to the action item, and that's number 8A, which is to consider the recommendation from the Budget and Audit Committee to appoint Frank Gavidia to seat number 3 and renew the term of the existing members, Hank Stratford and Howard Kaplan, to the Community Financial Sustainability Committee for 2-year terms expiring December 31st, 2026. And before the city finance director speaks on this, I want to have a couple of comments that I'm going to make prior to that to hopefully understand where we're headed with this, this new committee. Number one, we have received at the council level different views of what situation the financial system is within the city, from several city managers successively, different views. In my view, this committee is going to tackle the first, the analysis of the financial situation within the city, revenue sources, expenses, to take a good look at those and come up with a list of recommendations on how to proceed. Because we've had a number of different opinions on how best, if in fact we have a severe revenue shortage, what do we do to address that? And I think that the individuals that are been nominated tonight can really fill that need. Thirdly, how do we proceed? Well, right now, we want to take a look at those finances first before we make any short-term or long-term commitments to that would bind the city, before we have a good sense of what do we have in the way of revenue and can support those kinds of requests that the staff is going to be bringing forward, which I'm assuming they will. So it's pretty much a very focused group that's going to look at the finances, see the revenues, see the expenses, come up with some recommendations on how to proceed, but also to hold the line, at least in my view, how we should address it if there's a need. There's been several options that's been recognized and brought to us. We need a clearer picture, and that's what I think this committee can bring. Let me give you just a brief, before I turn it over to the finance director, I got one last comment on the individuals that have the background, at least from what the Budget and Audit Committee and myself understand can really provide value. Howard Kaplan is a chartered financial analyst. So he's got a solid, and I've known Howard over the past 10, 15 years, and I know he's got a real solid financial background, and it's a strong suit in his regard. Hank Stratford. Hank is now our current volunteer treasurer, but backing up that, he is a CPA, a certified public accountant. He is very knowledgeable on the aspects of what do we do with finances. In fact, he has to address those on a regular basis here at the city as our treasurer, in a volunteer position, no compensation. The nomination of the next individual, Frank Gavidia, he is a certified financial planner. He runs a group, an organization, his own business, that he recommends his clients on how to invest their money. That's a very significant responsibility. And with that, and qualifying for that 3 letters behind his name, certified financial planner, very key. You have to know finances. You have to know what to do, what to recommend on that. So those are my brief comments about this committee and what the makeup is of the individuals, their backgrounds, and I look forward to them providing the analysis and the direction and recommendations for us. City Finance Director, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Diaz and council members. On March 24th, Budget and Audit Committee met, reviewed application, and interviewed Mr. Frank Gavidia for one of the seats, seat 3, for Community Financial Sustainability Committee, and would like to recommend appointing Mr. Gavidia as a new member and also renewing the 2 existing members, Mr. Hank Stratford and Mr. Howard Kaplan, to the committee for 2-year terms, which will expire December 31st, 2026. With that, there are 2 more seats in the committee available for anyone in the committee who would like to join the committee to be fully seated. Regarding that, if you have any questions, I am more than happy to answer.
Thank you very much. Before we proceed to any public comment, do any of the council members wish to chime in and give their 2 cents worth, particularly the members of the Budget and Audit Committee?
I'll save my comments for discussion.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to now open it up to public comment, and I'll ask the city clerk to see if we have any cards for people that are waiting to address this item.
I have not received cards, but I do have a
No
member
cards.
online.
Okay, anybody online?
Yes,
Okay, who's that?
Rebecca Nolan.
All right, let's go. Rebecca, you're up.
Hey, Rebecca Nolan.
No, sorry. I was not supposed to have my hand raised for that, sorry.
Okay, thank you. And there are no speakers to this item.
Okay. Uh-oh, here comes somebody that wants to speak. Okay, and don't forget to fill out a card too, please. Thank you.
Okay, I agree with my neighbor, Mr. Walcott over there. Welcome, Adam. No matter what you hear, Clayton is a wonderful place to live. I'm sure Mr. Gavidia is well qualified in terms of his financial experience. My concern with him relates to his temperament. When Mr. Gavidia was on the Planning Commission, I watched very closely as he often didn't show up to meetings, refused to go on screen with other commissioners, and oftentimes would not engage at all or very little. But most importantly, he would not do the work that he was served to do. I watched other members of the Planning Commission give up countless weekends, countless hours to read 1,000-page documents. I watched them give up time with their families in order to serve this community. I watched all of the other commissioners make those types of sacrifices, and I watched Frank choose not to. and then to ultimately act in the ways that I and others have mentioned, like a child having a temper tantrum, honestly. A couple of Halloweens ago, when the town was passing out candy to children and Frank and many of his colleagues drove up with a fire truck, I walked over to them to shake hands and to make peace. He's one of the few that would not shake my hand. To this day, I regularly shake hands with many of his colleagues. Him and Councilmember Juan both still vigorously refuse. Frank refused again just tonight while petulantly rolling his eyes. He can't even shake the hand of a member of the community that he has served or wishes to serve. Just because we disagree politically, dude? Who is he really here to serve? Clearly not me or the folks I love, the folks I care about. What does that say about his temperament? Just recently, I was in the hall after the city council meeting and Frank went after a man who had the audacity to speak about the budget. He lost his temper and yet again, waving his arms and screaming as they both left the room and everybody heard the door slam. Everybody who was here heard that. As read, actually it wasn't read earlier, but a public comment was submitted tonight. It'll be read for anybody who wants to see online, so I won't mention names, but it's out there for anybody who cares. That episode was witnessed through the window in the hallway. That person saw exactly what I saw in the hall. Mr. Gavidia losing his temper, the citizen feeling shut down, and Mr. Gavidia continually piling on in an aggressive manner. That seems to be his MO. That's how he continually chooses to act in a public forum. It's what he did to me the last time I saw him downtown, honestly. He simply is not qualified to serve. We have all watched him lose his temper over the course of several years in public comments here. For Christ's sakes, in 2018, he was downright screaming at the entire city council about parolee housing. Remember that, guys? It's largely his temperament that precludes him from serving this community. But also, let's not forget about his inaction, continual inaction, while having an actual opportunity to serve. Why would we give him an opportunity again? So, spotlight's on you guys. It's time to make a choice. I hope you haven't already made that. It's Jeff, Peter, Jim, Holly, Kim. Do the right thing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to address this item? We have another speaker.
Good evening, City Council, again. I just want to thank you for moving this forward. It's critical. Actually, I think Councilmember Cloven is the one that recommended this a year ago. And it's critical in this community right now because there's so many numbers being floated around as to what the deficit is going to be. We heard from our previous city manager that this year the deficit was going to be $750,000, and that was because Mr. Cloven wanted to push through a $400 parcel tax, spent $30,000 on a community survey to show that, as a matter of fact, I had a conversation with him and told him it was no way in hell it was going to fly. But they spent the $30,000, community told them the same thing. And then we've got Brett with his forecast, and now it's $240,000, same year, and he was pushing a 1% sales tax. But there's a credibility issue here. We need an independent outside source, and these are community members, they're not politicians, they're not city staff, that's going to review all the numbers. They're going to look at that budget line item by line item and determine where we are. And from there, as you said, Mr. Mayor, from there, we can put together a plan. You can't solve a problem if you don't know what the number is. And we need to have a committee that's going to add credibility to this. I worked with Hank on the city council. He's a smart guy, quiet, smart guy, CPA. I don't know Howard very well, and I've worked with Frank. I think you got the right mix on this committee. They're the only ones that have really stepped up, that volunteered to serve on this community, to serve our community. I think we need to give them a chance to do their work, and then we can move forward with a solution. And I would urge you to vote tonight and support them, and then we can hopefully, I don't know how long it's going to take them, but hopefully at the end of all this, we'll have a good feel for what the number really is. I served on the budget committee in this town for 8 years, and I was appointed as punishment because nobody wanted to serve on the budget committee. And I know for a fact that it's a guess at best It's like the weather forecast. You know, you make a forecast, and at the end of the year, you're either over or under. And if you're over, the money went into the general fund reserve. If you're under, then you take the money out of the general fund reserve to balance the budget, because by state law, you have to balance the budget. So I know that an outside source, 3 individuals, will have a huge impact on where we go. And I think they would get community support, whatever it is you guys want to do in the futures. If there's cuts that need to be made, or if there's a tax increase that you support, at least you'll have credibility. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Walcott. Anybody else in the audience that didn't submit a card that would like to speak on this item? I'm going to ask each one of you to come up after this. If not, and we have no more online, is that correct? I don't see anybody, right?
No hands online.
Okay, I'm going to close the public comment on this item. Before we bring it back for a vote, I would like to give the opportunity for each of the members, proposed members to this committee, to come up and tell us a little bit about themselves and how they're going to address the task at hand. And I see Howard Kaplan that wants to speak first. Howard, come on up.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, council, staff. Pardon?
Put on, please.
Thank you. Red light's on. I feel as though before we embark on this journey, we need to get some input. I've got several categories here. First category is the Brown Act. I'm not experienced in how to manage and deal with the Brown Act. I think it would behoove the city council, city attorney, to provide us with a written brief on the Brown Act and what the expectations are for our behavior to be in compliance with the Brown Act. Not just what it says, but how it gets applied. Some real examples that we can refer to. Second, I would like to hear from each and every city council member individually on what their expectations and hopes are, how they would define our scope of work in their own terms. Just go right down the line. And along with that, providing with us their thoughts on what they expect will be our greatest challenges in achieving those objectives. Would like to understand what the City Council's expectations are about meeting with City Council on our work. My feeling is that we will decide when we are ready to have something that's conclusive that we want to present to the City Council and not be put in a position where we need to report on our progress. Because when you're looking at the numbers and evaluating it and drawing conclusions, so much of it happens right at the end that you can't jump to conclusions before you've really formed solid positions. It's my understanding that the governance of our committee will be majority. I'm not sure how that's going to work. We'll work that out between us, but it seems as though when we have 2 in agreement and 1 in disagreement, we can certainly present a majority position and a minority position. Yeah, and lastly, I have a couple of requests for how to start, and that's going to have to be with the outgoing finance director to understand a little better what the work has been to this point. And we got a couple of days to get that done. So we're going to have a conversation, and I think the other members of my committee need that same access in the next couple of days, because once she goes, it's hard to get that done. Okay? The other thing I wanted to say is that my expectations are that we will all deal with truth. The committee will be independent, and that we will be all behaving with civility. So, on that basis, if you guys want to respond to that first request, that would be how I would be willing to go forward tonight.
Thank you. Okay, Hank yeah, come on up, Hank Stratford. By the way, Hank is not only our treasurer, but I don't know if I remembered it, but he's a former city councilman and mayor. So he's getting back in the thick of things.
Yeah,
Welcome,
and
Hank.
I'm not sure why. But I know things have changed since I was on the council, and so I appreciate the job you're doing, and it doesn't seem as fun as when I was on the council, so thank you for sticking with it. I've struggled a little bit with this committee in terms of, I've questioned whether it was needed, and maybe hearing tonight, I see maybe a little more of a need than I saw before. I also served on the budget subcommittee for the 8 years that I was on the council, and there's not a lot of moving parts to the budget. It's not a huge, complex, piece of work that we have. But it sounds like maybe the council has had a hard time, maybe because of all the turnover, it's been hard to kind of get a good feel for what the numbers are. And if we can help with that, then I'm glad to do it. I think, and I know when I was on the council, one of the biggest challenges was saying no. And if we didn't have the money, it was hard to say no to expenses that the city wanted to spend money on for personnel or for whatever, and that's a challenge. And if we can help with that, then we're glad to do it. And also possibly looking forward and seeing, if we had all the money we needed, how would the budget look? And then see if there's enough of a need, then the council could decide whether they need another funding source. But I'm a big proponent of a good balanced budget. So, and if we have to say no, we say no. But any questions from you for me?
No. Thank
Okay.
you for your continued service. By the way, one thing I forgot to mention, everybody remembers the program.
Do the right thing.
What is it? Yeah, right.
Yeah, the banners look good.
He did. Hank put that together and got it all working, and we now have a whole variety of students from both the elementary, middle, and Clayton Charter High School. They get a reward for the recognition of their accomplishments at the school. So, Hank, that's one thing that's going to live on for a long time, after at least many of us are gone. But thank you again. Frank, would you like to come up and make a comment or two?
Buenas noches, don alcalde. Gusto de verlo otra vez. Why am I doing this? That came up when I was interviewed at Budget and Audit. I did a little under 4 years on the Planning Commission, and already a few rocks are being thrown at me. I'm used to it. I have very thick skin. The Marine Corps made me tough. But why am I doing this? Seriously. This idea came up 2 years ago. I spoke on it. Was concerned that perhaps yes men would be appointed, people who aren't qualified. The city didn't get a lot of applicants. That's not surprising. Those of us in finance, we make a really good living. We don't want to come and get caught up in this kind of stuff. Last year, Holly Tillman asked a very good question when all the banks were failing about the UBS account, and she agreed to meet with me. I went over how the bank deposit program went. We had a nice conversation, and she said, hey, will you serve on the committee? And I said, no. Did my time, got passed over on the Planning Commission. I don't need to go through this stuff again. I've watched what's happened recently, and in the last 12 months, the person I've spoken to the most is Mr. Kaplan right here. He's a CFA. I'm a CFP. I run an independent advisory firm. CFP is breadth, not depth. CFA is very specialized. The dream practice is You walk into an independent investment firm and you got the CFP, you got the CFA, and you got the CPA. If I can snag these two and open up a really big firm, it's going to happen after this. Although Mr. Kaplan's already told me no. But in all honesty, why am I doing this? Because it has to be done. Somebody's got to look at the numbers. I've got some experience looking at city finances. When you deal in municipal bonds, when I was a broker, the MSRB changed the rules. You better know muni finance before you sell a bond and put it in a client's account. And you have ongoing responsibility. It doesn't stop just at suitability. Kind of makes you not want to do muni bonds because when you look at some of the finances of some of the cities that we were selling bonds in at 2 of the wirehouses I was at, well, there we go. I think between the 3 of us, we can do a lot of good work. There is no partisanship in numbers. People lie. Numbers don't. I say that a lot when I meet with clients. You can have $3 million, tell me you want to do X, Y, and Z. If the numbers don't work, I don't care how much money you're going to pay me. I can't tell you that your plan, that your calculations, that this is going to work. And I'm not going to take you as a client. I think the 3 of us, have had very intense numbers conversations with Mr. Kaplan about things like Monte Carlo and R squared. If you don't know what that is, that's okay. It's complicated, but this is a man that does numbers. I do numbers. Frankly, anyone who wants to come to these meetings, I think that, hey, that's a good way to cure your insomnia. I do agree with Mr. Kaplan's concerns about the Brown Act. How are we going to get together and go over spreadsheets for hours and hours and have a public meeting? I guess I'll be expected to give up several hours. Someone here says I don't do work, but hey, you can say whatever you want. The First Amendment's there. But we'll be giving up a lot of hours to do this. And hopefully the outcome is something objective. I do want to say this. It should be our elected officials who do this sort of thing. But it seems that elected officials do like doing other things as opposed to this. And I don't mean that offensively. Just look at Congress. The staffers write the laws, and then they don't know what the hell they're voting on. I wonder how many council members here or in any city really go line by line through a budget. But that's what we're going to do. And whatever we come back with, as Mr. Stratford says, look, if there's a hole in the budget, we're going to tell you. If there's not a hole in the budget, we're going to tell you. I personally am agnostic about whether or not there is or is not a tax or what kind of tax. And the only thing I'd ask all 5 of you is don't politicize this thing. Let us do our work. It's going to take time. Don't go pitching a sales tax or a parcel tax, either of you two. Let us do our work. And when we come back, we'll have facts. I like the laughing. Goes well, sir. But we'll have facts. And I will be objective, and I'll be working with 2 quality individuals right here. You're not going to do any better than a CFP, a CFA, and a CPA all under one roof. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Okay, we've had comments from the public here in the Hoyer Hall. We've heard from people online, and now it's time to bring this back to the City Council for action.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Joanna Jen, City Attorney. Since the candidates did have an opportunity to speak, I was wondering if you'd like to ask the public if they'd like to comment, if there's any new public comment.
Well, I'll defer to council. What do you need to do?
The mayor would simply reopen public comment.
Reopen it? Okay, give me the background of why we should do that again.
You can do that. So the candidates, it's up to the mayor's discretion. I was wondering, since the candidates did have an opportunity to speak, whether the mayor would like to ask if there's new public comment. That is simply all.
I don't know if I'm in favor of that or not. We want to reopen it again? Let's reopen it. By the way, just so you'll know, Joel Clayton signed in to speak tonight. I don't know where in the heck he came from, but he had his hand up. For those of you that don't know who Joel Clayton is, he founded this city in 1874. Okay, so we'll reopen it for some additional comments. Anybody in the room wish to come up forward and address this item? I see none. Anybody online?
As a reminder for those online, please use the raise hand feature or *6 to raise your hand if you would like to speak to this item. There are no raised hands.
No, nobody's done it. Okay, so now I'm going to close the public comment. Is that okay?
That's more than okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Wait a minute, maybe Joel's going to raise his hand again. But anyway, okay, so now back to the city council for action on this item.
So Mr. Kaplan raised a number of questions that he requested that we address. So I wrote them down. You said 7, but you only said, you mentioned 7, but you only listed 6. So hopefully I get them all. Regarding the Brown Act, I do think it'd be a great idea for our city attorney when she returns to prepare some materials for you. So I think we can provide direction for staff to do that, both in exactly what you said, the application and examples. They have canned material for that, so it's fairly straightforward, I think. But you can make your own evaluation after you get the materials. That was number 1. Number 2, you asked about the expectation and scope. The scope is fairly broad. I think it's really discretionary what the committee determines their scope is, obviously with a certain focus. I would only recommend that you follow the data and show your work. Beyond that, I think we leave it to your discretion as what you find important. And as long as you do that, then we'll be in good shape. Number 3, you asked about challenges. I think the largest challenge will likely be to get good information. Despite everyone's best effort, there just may not be some information available. So you may have to extrapolate a little bit, and if you do, I think that's normal. And then I think, community support, I think, will also be a little difficult. We have had various, basically what we're talking about tonight. So I think it behooves you to really, essentially what I said earlier, follow the data and show your work, and I think that will speak for itself. Number 4, you asked about meeting with council and the cadence that should be, and you had a view on what that should be. So I think, again, I would say that's at your discretion. I would request that somewhat periodic updates, even if it's not conclusive, even just to say that we've met and we have nothing that nothing comes of it. I think that's fine. You don't have to take the time to come down to the meeting. An email is also good too. So as far as governance goes, I think number 5 was governance, and you asked how you're going to govern. I think you guys can self-govern. You're grown-ups. So there's that. And then number 6, you asked about how you're going to start. If you want recommendations, I'd be glad to give it to you. But again, I would leave that to your discretion on what you think is best, and go forth and be merry. So I would make a request that, I know that our finance director is here for a limited window. So to the extent that you can make yourself available, if it's possible, that would just be my request. So did I get all your stuff? All right. And then, I don't know if
Go ahead.
If anyone else wants to make comment, I can report out from the Budget and Audit Committee, as both Vice Mayor Trupiano and myself are members, but if we want to do this part first, if anyone cares to address Mr. Kaplan's request or not, it's completely up to you.
Well, the only thing I want to add, thank you, Mr. Kaplan and Mr. Stratford. Good to finally meet you. We haven't met before. Good to meet our treasurer, and thank you, Frank, for all your comments. I think just a couple of things in addressing some of the challenges will be getting the information, and also I really want to reiterate what you said, Mr. Kaplan, about no pressure, There is not a time constraint on this, and I do want to make sure that the committee doesn't feel pressure from any one individual or the city. Take the time that you need. Hopefully, we will have somebody to replace Propty shortly, and we'll be able to continue providing information. And I also wanted to say that I love that you said you want to be truthful and independent and act with civility. I think that's very important, obviously, in light of where we sit tonight. And we just want the truth, right? That's all we want. That's why I believe this committee was proposed by Councilmember Cloven. And we just want the truth. We want to get some answers. And we think that you are, I think that you are the dream team to make this happen. So thank you for volunteering. It's not going to be an easy task, but we appreciate all the effort that you're going to put into it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, go ahead.
Move this closer. I agree with a lot of what was said by my fellow council members, but to answer Mr. Kaplan's questions more directly, I think for my expectations, you wanted to know expectations on behavior and the application with real world examples for the Brown Act. I'm so glad that you said that, and really do hope that that's something that you guys adhere to. I know that during the meeting that was in March, that there seemed to be some glee that you guys might not be Brown Act bound by the Brown Act, and then when you found out that you were kind of disappointed in that. I'm assuming it has more to do with the timing of when you guys can meet, not because you want to violate the Brown Act. And so that comes to my concern, which is one of your questions. A challenge that I think that you guys might have is how long you guys are going to be able to have these meetings, getting the access to what you need. But I also think that you need to have that training on the Brown Act before you guys start to meet. So I think it would be smart of us tonight to at least direct staff on how to get you started independently of each other to get you the materials that you need, since you guys aren't sure how to work together and not violate the Brown Act. I think that that's imperative. The other challenge that I see is there are only 3 of you now. There are 2 more seats, as we all know, because this is a 5-person committee. It can be up to 5 people. And you asked about governance of the committee, and is it majority rule, essentially? And what are you guys going to do if there are 4 of you on it and not the 5th person to be the tiebreaker? I think that we need to determine, and it doesn't necessarily have to be here tonight, but when that happens, we're going to have to figure out how that tiebreaker is changed. But I guess you guys could just come to us and say consensus is 2 of us thought this way, 2 of us thought that way, since you're reporting back to the community. And I think really being truthful and taking out the politics, right? I think someone came up earlier in public comment and said that they're not politicians. 2 of them literally are. So it's in their DNA. One was a council member, one was on the planning commission and ran for council. They're politicians. So I don't want it to be politicized, and I know that that can kind of sometimes come out, especially given the polarization that's in our community. And it has a lot to do with the disinformation campaigns that have been going on now for quite a few years. And so looking at the numbers and being factual, I think, is key. And I suspect that this committee wouldn't be shy on speaking up when you know that someone's speaking out of turn. That's what I would expect. Love the civility piece. Love that you guys are willing to work together. But I know that these aren't the only 3 who ran or who submitted their names. There were actually 5 total. 1 was denied. And so trying to keep the politics out of it, I think we really have to be aware of the history of this group and how it was formed, keeping the politics out of it, but also recognizing that politics on how people got put on this committee was in play. And I think that that's something that we all need to consider here, sitting here tonight. I also have concerns on how we structured this. And so if I'm looking at the actual resolution and what the membership of the committee would be, we are missing a couple of the components. So we've got the CFA, the CFP, and the CPA. Thank you. What we needed on here, membership shall include at a minimum one member with experience in governmental accounting, one member with experience in governmental finance and/or budgeting, and one member with experience in auditing. And so we're missing A and B. It's the governmental piece, and you had to have at a minimum 2 of those. So we're starting to put you guys on without having the governmental accounting or governmental finance and/or budgeting piece. I know that we have our volunteer treasurer here, but 3 of the members needed to fulfill that criteria, and we don't yet. So that's a concern of mine. And then the only other issue that I had is the terms of service that we have in our resolution on how this would, and this goes now to the piece about extending your deadlines, or not your deadlines, your term limits. It says the initial term of some members may be less or more than 2 years, so that the expiration dates are staggered. And I'm concerned that all 3 of you guys end at the same date, which is December of '26. And so it needs to be changed so that you're not all coming off at the same time. That's the end of my comments.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Councilmember Cloven.
To be clear, I brought this to the City Council's attention back in October 4th of 2022, and we talked about it on October 18th, 2022. Earlier that year, our city manager at the time, Raina Schwartz, who had a strong finance background, especially government finance background, put together a budget. There were 2 portions of the budget. One was with as it was, one had needs, or specific needs that she put in there that inflated the deficit. And I get that that caused consternation in the community. But the original budget she had still was a deficit spending. We were at a structural deficit with her budget. We had a great conversation as a council about, wow, we have more expenses than we have income. It was pretty straightforward. We saw it. I mean, we saw it. And it was talked about earlier, the previous year, in July of 2021, by our then council member, Juan, who wrote a great article about our structural deficit and some of the challenges we have ahead of us. We talked at the time that we thought that there was a need for an increase in revenue. And at the time, the 5 of us, not including you because you were on board then, said that let's put together some type of revenue generation. We talked about a parcel tax, and all 5 of us at the time thought that that was an appropriate way to go. We didn't know what the amount was. $400 was a number was mentioned, to your credit, but it was also stated that we needs to be as low as necessary to figure out what that number would be to actually cause our needs to be covered. The reason we put together this $30,000 survey was to find out what our community felt about that. And sure, we were told our community was going to hate it, but who really wants taxes? Come on. But we needed to find out if they even knew that we had a problem. That was the reason we had the survey. Do they know we have a problem? Now, there was a really weird question in that, that survey about trust of the council. And what came back was a very clear, strong distrust of the council. Now, you can say it was distrust of that faction or that faction. I don't care. There was a distrust of the council's ability to make decisions. So, based on that fact alone, I felt it was important to come together with a trusted group of people with financial backgrounds to give the Budget and Audit Committee and the council feedback on really what is going on. And I use trusted advisory group. They are looking at the numbers to be the mouthpiece for the community of what our numbers are. I still think that's a good idea. Because quite frankly, the community still doesn't trust us as a council to make those decisions. Now, we've all got pretty good business backgrounds. Got a CPA over there. I run my own business. I'm the finance director of 2 nonprofits. I mean, we all have good backgrounds in numbers. It doesn't matter. The reason why this committee was put together in the first place and suggested and passed by us unanimously was to be the trusted voices of our community. To be the trusted voices. They were supposed to give us the feedback, but not only were they supposed to give the feedback to the council and to the Budget and Audit Committee, they were also charged with being able to communicate independently as a community, as a committee, to the community as a whole. So it wasn't just a reporting to us, but it was also the ability to report their findings independently to the community. Now, as a council, we get to choose whether or not we would follow their advice, and clearly, as we take that into consideration in our budget considerations. It was a trusted advisory committee. That's the reason it was brought up. I hearken back to when you came on board, Kim, a conversation where we had to elect some some planning commissioners. And we had an existing planning commissioner who had experience, but you decided not to vote for him because he was too political. I remember you saying that. And since you didn't vote for him because he was too political, I wonder what your take is on our current applicant. And the reason why I ask the question is that words that have been clearly political on numerous occasions. But I'm asking you point blank, do you believe he can be non-political in the context? And if you personally believe that he can be non-political, then I'll vote with you.
Okay. So I don't know if you watched the last Budget and Audit Committee meeting. I would encourage, or I would hope before this evening, everybody on the council and the community had done that. I asked Mr. Gavidia some very pressing questions, some of which were, what do you bring to the committee? Why did you wait until now? How do you complement the committee, the existing experience on the committee? How do you hope to achieve? What do you hope to achieve by serving on this committee? How do you envision the committee working with the Budget and Audit Committee, the city staff, and the council? And how do you envision sharing your findings with the community? How will you do that? And I believe he answered those sufficiently. Councilmember Juan, I don't know if you want to weigh in, but that's why we made this recommendation.
Now, I appreciate those comments. I'm asking you a question. Does he have the ability to be non-political in the context of this committee?
I don't speak for him. He said yes. He said yes, and I'm going to believe him.
I didn't know we were berating our fellow council members, but I think it goes back to, I also participated in the interviews, and it goes back to the idea that follow the data, the numbers don't lie, show your work. It doesn't matter what you believe, you just demonstrate with facts, and those speak for themselves. So that's pretty much how I expect, and reiterating my previous commentary, you're gonna do what you do. I don't expect you to get direction from us. Please don't. Just do what you do, take the time necessary, and show your work. That's it.
So then may I ask what the difference is then between any of the 3 appointments that the 2 we already did, and then this one up tonight? Why did we not appoint Jim Killeran?
I don't think that's germane to our topic.
It absolutely is. So if someone has the financial background or finance background, which all of the applicants did, why are we not appointing all of them to this committee.
I would say that's not an agendized topic,
It doesn't need to be.
so
You
I'm not
just-
going to address it.
That's your answer. Okay, so you chose not to appoint someone who was qualified just based off of what our criteria was, for whatever reason that you don't want to state.
I stated it during that meeting.
I
And
understand, but if we're
welcome to
following the
review
numbers.
video.
if
It's
we're-
on there.
If we're following the numbers, and their guidance is follow
City-
the numbers no
city
matter where it
attorney.
takes you. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Councilmember Tillman, Councilmember One is correct. It is not for the council today, the appointment of the other member. So any discussion would be limited to the appointment of the three before the council tonight.
So just to clarify, I cannot reiterate what he just now said we're basing this appointment tonight off of?
So there's only three individuals who are listed for appointment.
Yes.
I hear a fourth name, and that fourth name is not on the agenda. If there was a prior discussion, and I guess I'm not familiar with that backstory, of consideration before the committee, and it was not brought forth, then that would end there. But that's not, the appointment of that fourth member is not agendized.
I don't want the fourth member to be agendized, to be appointed. My question is, he just now stated the rationale for why we're going to appoint the third one tonight, and I'm trying to understand why we're changing the rules tonight.
So to clarify, my statement wasn't about the rationale for appointing those members tonight. My statement was in regard to Councilmember Cloven's question, do you trust this person to not be political? So that was the response to that question. And in response to the question of, do you trust the person to not be political, I said the numbers are not political. So it's not a rationale for appointment in general. It's a response to a specific question.
And Councilmember Tillman.
Anything else to be brought?
Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
I wanted to be responsive to your earlier question about the vote threshold for the committee action. So under the resolution, at least three members of the committee constitute a quorum, and a majority vote of the quorum is required for the committee to take action. So if there are only three members and all three are present to conduct business, then 2 votes would be required for action. If there are 4 members present for a quorum, then 3 votes would be required for action, and the same for 5 members too. Thank you.
I would encourage the committee, if you have disagreements, it's fine to present different pieces of information. That's fairly normal, and show your work. I keep saying that. That's important.
Anything further on this item?
No, I would move approval of the appointments as they are described.
May I ask the city attorney a quick question? Based off of how the resolution is currently worded, do you have it in front of you by chance?
I do.
Okay, so it's under number 1, membership. Are we able to do this appointment if one of them does not follow the criteria about the governmental accounting, governmental finance, and/or budgeting and auditing?
That is a great question. I believe so because it would be a membership of the whole. So if there was a member who actually satisfied one of the 3 criteria, let's say there were all 5 members and there were 3 that actually, 1 for each A, B, and C, and then that position became vacant, I don't think there would be any violation. I think you would just need to appoint another member of the committee to then fulfill that last criteria. And also regarding your comment about terms of service, I believe the intent, it sounds like, and I can only guess, for the term to end in 2026 is to then allow for the 2 members who are vacant to then be staggered and then go out to 20.
I would
to have a different time.
clarify, the original intent was to stagger, and that was assuming that we would seat 5 at the same time. However, given the dearth of candidates. The language in the resolution says it may be staggered, and so that's just a choice that we can make. And given the current situation that we are presented with, I think setting the timeline is, I think we suggested the extension of the existing terms to be coextensive, because at that point, we hope that your work will be resolved and then we could release you into the public or into the wild. We hope. And there is a good chance that you may, be done with your work prior, make your recommendations, and then be on your way. Either one is fine, but I think extending the terms out to give you a sufficient runway so you don't feel the pressure, that was the goal there. So it's really a discretionary matter.
Yes, that is correct.
Anything else?
So I moved approval of the motion of the appointment as it's described in the report.
I do have one quick question. If for any point one of the members is not able to continue serving and we only have 2 members, or one member decides not to be on the committee and we only have 2 members, would the committee then be dissolved until we're able to staff it with a quorum?
The committee would not be dissolved, but they could not yet meet until the council appointed that 3rd member to constitute a quorum.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I second the motion.
It's been moved by Councilmember Juan and seconded by Vice Mayor Chupiano to move forward with this item. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Thank you. Councilmember Cloven,
I abstain.
Councilmember Tillman,
I'm going to vote yes, with the caveat that should this turn political in any way, and there are any disinformation campaigns that come out with these numbers purposely, that this council then has an agenda item to remove that member from this committee.
pardon me, Councilmember Tillman, were you making a substitute motion?
No, that was my yes and my reason why I'm saying yes, and what I would like to do or what I'm going to do afterwards.
Vice Mayor Tripiano,
Yes.
Mayor Diaz?
Yes.
I also vote yes.
I apologize. You couldn't have missed. Thank you. Mayor, you
Okay,
have
that
4 ayes.
concludes item 8A. And we'll move into item 9, which is council items limited to council requests and directives for future meetings.
I still have my same request that I have had since October, which is for us to either hire, I think at this point we probably should just hire a third-party investigator. Given all of the resignations that we've had in the last month, as well as the rationale for why they left, this isn't news to this council. We all knew that it was coming because we could see it, and we had the emails from staff. But that wasn't when it started. And so when I originally asked for this, were for some things that were actually happening behind the scenes, which is why I originally asked my request, so that we can develop a censure policy if that's necessary. And I had asked for a 360 review of staff, from staff on city council a couple of years ago. And there was a reason for that as well. So my ask is for us to agendize bringing this back for us to discuss in further detail. And everyone here knows that we cannot have the city attorney investigate this themselves without us directing them. So in order to do that, we need to put it on the agenda to bring it back to discuss further, and then they will move from there. So that's my request. I also asked this last meeting to have a session on governance, and I'm going to reiterate that request.
Thank you. Anything else?
I have one item. I'd like to discuss the lane striping at the entrance to Dana Hills on Mount Tower Parkway. I believe we've all received several emails from residents regarding the proposed lane striping. And if we could bring that back, it'd be great to get that taken care of before the summer when the road is actually going to be done.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Closing item number 9. Move on to item 10, which is council reports. Councilmember Cloven.
Thank you, Mayor. Had a Transpac meeting in Pleasant Hill on the 11th. Again, we're looking at proposals for elderly and disabled citizens transport, finding out what options are available and what service Clayton. And there are a few things that I've learned that do serve Clayton, which I'm looking forward to talking to the village about. Briefly stopped in on Saturday at Skylar Bistro for their opening. They were packed, and I'm glad that they were served well and you guys got a chance to cut the ribbon. I been involved with Clayton Pride. That's coming up more fast than we know on June 2nd. It's going to be quite the event, and sponsors are coming in, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And for those of you who have not been, you'll see this is a lot of joy, and it's going to be a great day in our city. The other thing I've been highly involved in is now we are set. It's this Saturday. Clayton Cleans Up is showing up. If you get there early, first 200 people are going to get a T-shirt. Quite frankly, they look phenomenal, and we got to thank a local artist, junior in high school, who put together the logo. And it's something you're going to want to wear after the day. I was over on Saturday. Startups at 9 o'clock in the morning with coffee and donuts, and then at noon, our Public Services is going to do a barbecue like they normally do, so with beverages and hot dogs, and it's going to be a nice community event, and we're looking forward to seeing everybody there. That's been my report.
Councilmember Juan? Obviously, Councilmember Juan up next.
So I had the pleasure of attending the latest East Bay Leadership Council meeting. Our vice mayor is on the board. We had a speaker, or they had a speaker, excuse me, former California State Supreme Court Justice Tani Cantel Sakauye. She was fabulous. I wish that justices could speak candidly with the delivery that she had when speaking in this forum, but I think they have to be a little bit more reserved, so that was great. It was a great opportunity. There's a number of electeds and local leaders that go to that. And then I wanted to thank Congressman Dessalines' office, him and his staff. They helped facilitate my family trip to DC. It was fabulous. So that's why I was missing from the last meeting. We missed the DC, 8th grade DC trip due to COVID, and so we decided to do that with all the kids. And it was great. So I was there for like a week and a half, and we did all the things, and it was a very educational experience. So great time. That was it.
Thank you. Councilmember Chilman.
Thank you, Mayor. On the 5th of April, I attended the East Bay Division of the League of California Cities board that I sit on. We had our division board meeting. We will be planning a few events, one of which is a bocce tournament that we have in June. I will invite you all again to help form a team with me. Last year, the city manager and Councilmember Cloven joined me. We were trying to get the chief to come, but he was afraid to come out there and roll some balls, so maybe he will join us this year. That's at the end of June, so I'll give more details later. On the 7th, 9th, and 14th, I had Clayton Pride meetings. As Councilmember Cloven already said, that is on June 2nd, on Sunday. On the 10th, I attended the League of California Cities Mayors and Council Members Roundtable. It was a Zoom discussion, which is how they do those, and it was actually on governance and some of the issues that other cities are having up and down the state on the dais. Also the relationships that they're having with city managers and councils. So it was, I don't know if it was recorded or not, but it was well attended and a lot of good feedback. And we, not surprisingly, we're not the only city that has issues, but a lot of people gave a lot of great advice, which is, again, why I had my ask for a governance session. On the 10th, that afternoon, later, we had our Firewise assessment demonstration up in the Keller Ridge area where I live. Inspector Gittes from Con Fire came out, and it was nice to have some fellow city residents come by and actually look at all of the ways that you can fix things at your house where embers can get in. Of course, we're over in my neighborhood, we're not as close to the mountain, but I know other areas are, such as where you live and over in the seminary area, the people who are right up against the mountain. It's a bigger threat, but what starts to happen when there's wildfire and there's high winds, the embers can fly. And so he was showing us how to save our homes if that was necessary. Morgan Territory Road will be having their Con Fire visit with Inspector Gittes next Wednesday, the 24th at 5:30 p.m. So if you're in the Morgan Territory area and you're watching these meetings, please make sure that you reach out to them. You probably have an email from them by now, so you can get the address. On the 11th, I got to have a Zoom meeting with our interim city manager, Adam Pulitzer. I also had another call with him today. And then earlier this morning, I went to the services for former Mayor Chanel Scales Preston's mom passed away in her services, and she's the former mayor of Pittsburgh. Her mother passed away, so her services were this morning. So that's my report.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Tropiano.
Thank you, Mayor. On April 4th, the mayor and I were at the mayor's conference in Danville. There was a presentation there by the Contra Costa Water Program, and they were talking about a countywide stormwater funding options investigation. It does sound like there's going to be a meeting of select city managers. They're having a workshop in a few weeks, and then there will be potentially an increase in stormwater funding. Their budget is running at an extreme deficit, and they have new requirements to meet. So more to come about that. That was April 4th, April 9th. As a member of the Clayton Community Library Foundation, I'm the city liaison. We had a new board president, Brian Welly, who resigned today. But I will say that we are talking about the refresh project. I had some conversations with Adam about it today. We are talking about board roles and responsibilities, and the foundation is looking for board members. They had a book sale this past weekend, and it was the best one they've had since the pandemic. So there'll be another one at the end of October. I, too, had a one-on-one with our new interim city manager last Thursday, and again today. Thank you for your time, Adam. And I just want to talk about two more things. We've got the East Contra Costa County Habitat Conservancy meeting here in this room, Monday, April 22nd at 2:30. I'm the chair of the governing board this year, and it's going to be about the protection of a Knightson property. I also, later that afternoon at 4 o'clock, our city-sponsored special events committee is meeting in City Hall at 4 p.m., and we're going to be talking about final to-dos, a review of the financials, finalizing sponsorships, marketing, and advertising. And just on that note, and if you know me, you know that I do not like drama. But I am going to say something tonight because I'm very upset. I have been selling sponsorships for the city. This is my second year now, and I'm working really, really hard at it. And I've had calls from several sponsors in this community of our city-sponsored events that they have been contacted by members of the CBCA questioning why are they supporting our city events. And it's put them in a very difficult position. It's put myself in a very awkward position, and it's very troubling to me. I also started thinking about my role as a public servant. I was elected by you to work hard for the city, for the staff, and all the people that live in this community. And I am working hard, as we all are. But we are your public servants, right? And I don't work for any one organization, certainly not this particular nonprofit. And I really am tired of us, I'm sorry, talking about CBCA at almost every meeting, but I'm going to do it again tonight. I'm resigning from the CBCA. I'm canceling my membership of myself and my husband. I think it's a conflict of interest at this point, and I do not want to be part of this organization until this organization can be more focused on supporting the businesses in this community, which is why it was started by my good friend Gloria Utley, rather than pushing their own agenda. I just cannot be a part of it anymore. And that is my statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, very quickly for mine, on the 3rd of April, attended the County Connection Operations Subcommittee, which I am on, and you can be assured we're keeping the buses on time and rolling. And the amazing thing is that the preventable accidents are almost at zero. So very good for our operators and the service that County Connection provides to our area. On the 4th, as Vice Mayor mentioned, was the Mayor's Conference over in Danville, and it was a wonderful event, including the presentation from the county, and it's going to need more looking into because they are running short of funding as well for the stormwater project. On the 8th, attended the Clayton Barbecue Committee meeting, and that's moving along for the 40th anniversary of that other organization, and it's barbecue and dinner on Friday night, and then the barbecue with the professionals sanctioned by the Kansas City Barbecue Society on Saturday the 15th. On the 9th, I attended a tremendous swearing in for the new police officer, and I want to compliment the chief. He did a great job, and it was probably the largest turnout of family and other people in this community, and now he's up to full staff, and this new officer is going to do a great job in the community. He has a family tradition of law enforcement, and he's going to be a definite asset to the city of Clayton. On the 13th, did you mention that too? Yes. Anyway, we both...
and the officer lives in
I know,
Clayton.
both of
right.
us participated in the grand opening of the Skylar Bistro. Yeah. And in fact, we were honored to do what they characterize as the ribbon cutting, and we got to do that. It was a well-attended event. There was standing room only. There were people in the restaurant and people outside, and that's fantastic. It was unbelievable. You need to go over there and have a wonderful meal. Later that day on Saturday, I had another pleasure to attend the Contra Costa County Bar Association 90th anniversary. They had been around for 90 years. They had a tremendous event with both professionals in the legal field, the attorneys, as well as judges and a number of us people that wanted to support them. It was a great event and made some really good connections there. There's a lot of importance that the Bar Association does for the legal community. On the 14th, I attended a celebration of life for Michael Carnes. Michael Carnes is a longtime musician in this community. He passed away last year, but this is the first time they had an opportunity to do a celebration of life. God rest Michael Carnes. And then today, I met with the interim city manager on things for tonight's meeting and a lot of other things that will be coming down the road. And then another major thing, we accepted today and received all of the beer and wine glasses for the Art and Wine Festival. They are now securely stored, and they'll be ready to go on the 27th and the 28th of April. That concludes my report, and I believe that concludes all of the items on the agenda, and we're adjourning at 8:39 until our next meeting on May 7th. Thank you.